Hi there, beautiful people, and welcome to this edition of What Would You Miss? Today I have on a friend who I also met by Gabe. I guess I owe Gabe like a box of cookies or something. We've, met through a chain of series of events or whatever you want to say, and it's been a great connection. She's super insightful, and I'm so happy to have her here. Laura, welcome to sitting across from my chair, so to speak, in our new format. So thank you for
Virtually.
coming on. I mean, it is good that the power of technology, we can do things this way. So I'm really happy that we've been able to continue these podcasts because I know how important they are. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. And I know you mentioned we met through Gabe. So we have both written articles for OC87 Recovery Diaries, which is such an amazing organization. And my family has gotten to meet Gabe and meet Herbie. We rewatched all the Herbie movies recently. But my story that I wrote for Gabe, it kind of started, they were doing an OC87 documentary screening a couple years ago, and I attended that. And at the end, Gabe had opened it up. There was questions and what advice can we give the audience? And some people were people who had not suffered with mental health issues. I myself have been had a diagnosis since I was 20. And my question was really like, how do you start to share your story? Because I had always wanted to write a book or start a blog.
Great question to be asking. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tell us what he said.
So he really had said, focus on one piece of your story, and especially for an article for OC87 or a blog post, you can't tackle your whole story in one sitting or in one article. So he said, focus on one theme, one moment, one piece, one thread of your story, and pick something and then go from there and see where it goes. And within like 3 days, I had stayed up one night and not too late. I still make sure to get my sleep. But one evening, I really just sat there and spent time. I had popped in my head the importance of support groups. And here we are, as we're talking about, COVID and the isolation, at least support groups, some of them are really continuing with strong presence online, which is important. I really do miss the in-person connection though. My weekly support group it's a DBSA, Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance group that meets every Monday. I don't attend every week. We have a Brady Bunch of 6 kids. So I can't attend every single week. I'm working full time, but I do attend at least every 3 weeks or so and help facilitate that group. But I decided to focus my story on the focus of support groups and how they've really made a difference in my journey with mental health and learning about myself, learning about how others have tackled the challenges and what they've done to survive and overcome. And really just, it's a beautiful forum to be there for each other. And we always talk about taking the mask off. So really being there and being able to just, everywhere else, how's your day? Good. And you're not really, they don't want to hear more than that either. There's a lot of places that the person doesn't want to hear more than good, move on. You're not supposed to share your personal struggles as much. But it has to be shared, it has to be shared. Maybe not with the grocery checkout person, but not that I haven't connected with random people.
I totally have connected with the grocery store kid before.
But you have to kind of feel out people and where they are and what they're ready to hear. But with close friends and family, you shouldn't have to just say good, That's my feeling. And we all have to get past some of that. But the nice thing about the group is the purpose of it is take your mask off. Tell us, I am not having a good day. It was a shitty week. I didn't sleep last night. I'm really concerned about this. Give us the real thing. And people always apologize for crying. Don't stop apologizing for crying. It's a human emotion to be sad or to get be emotional. And
we do apologize a lot. We apologize a lot.
Apologize for crying. Apologize for being a human. And it's something we have to really, I hope we can continue to overcome that in general, not even talking mental health challenges and diagnoses and things like that. As humans, let's continue to open up and be real people. We all have real struggles. Some of my concern with social media, it is nice to still have this chance to interact. But when people are, again, the highlight reels, were already bad enough. Now people are doing the highlight reels of quarantine, whatever fun dinner they're making, and they're
it's actually, they don't realize how much pressure they're putting on people like myself who are burping the ABCs with their kids because they're so exhausted. That is alone. I want to hit 2 points before we talk about that because I think that's important. One thing is, I have a very, very dear friend of mine who I grew up with. I've known her since I was like 3 years old, and she has MS. And she recently was talking about how when people say, how are you doing today? they don't really want to know. And she doesn't want to lie either. She doesn't want to be like, I'm great, I'm good, when it's crap. She has a sentence that she says to them, and I freaking love it. I don't want to talk about my health today. And I love it because it's giving her such power over that conversation and validating that, first of all, if you wanted to know, you would know more about me that way. The other thing is one time I was at the grocery store, this kid, young kid, probably 19 years old, his energy was, and I feel like people who, have a diagnosis and who have lived with depression are empathic. They really are in tune to other people. Maybe that's the word I'm looking to, other people. He looked so sullen. And I said, how are you today? And he's like, good. I was like, you don't look good. I was like, just remember, everything in life is temporary. If you're having a rough time, it will pass. It may seem like it's not going to, but it will pass. And then I made a joke because, I didn't know if he really wanted me to say that. Well, the next week I went back and I went through his line again. And he said to me, he's like, I got to tell you, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said to me. He's like, I really was having a crap day. And I thought, I don't know his story, and he didn't obviously want to share it, but he just, thanked me for it. And we joked around. I made another, stupid mom joke.
Yeah.
But there's so many people out in the world that just that little interaction, just saying hello, you are acknowledging that they are alive and that they exist.
It's that butterfly effect and that tiny, the tiny wave of a butterfly wings. What effect does that have? If you can, those moments of kindness where you just, instead of ignoring someone or just head down and walk out the line. I had somebody come up to me in a pizza shop once who just like poured out her life story. And, she had suffered some mental health issues. And I think it's funny that you said the empath thing, because I call it, like, especially for bipolar, I'll call it bipolar dar or whatever. But like, I can really sense very quickly if somebody probably has some mental health challenges. And a lot of times there's just something, it's a gut feeling. It's not anything that somebody says, oh, how did you know? Was I acting erratically? And it's not even when they're acting erratically, then you definitely know.
That's different.
And everybody does. But it's those subtle things that are just a gut feel that, they've been through something similar maybe that you've been through.
Yeah. And the person that opened up to you, they probably didn't have anybody to open up to. I've given random people hugs before, and my kids are always like, oh God.
Me too.
One time, I'll never forget it. We were in like Starbucks, some coffee shop. And not that I'm trying to promote Starbucks, but and this person was really just looked rough, and I was like, "Is everything okay? You having a bad day?" And they're like, they're like, "My day can't get any worse." And I was like, "Do you need a hug?" And they're like, "I think I do." And I was like, "Come on, bring it in." And I gave him a hug. The guy looked at me. He was an older man, like 70 something. The guy looked at me and he goes, "I haven't had a hug in about 6 months." He's like, "I can't thank you enough," with a tear in his eye, and he walked out. Now, of course, at first my kids were like, I thought he was going to be a perv. I thought, I was like, we need to stop that. We also need to remember that people are human. They need contact, which, right now they can't get. But
you and Gabe had talked about, and I commented on the post, the thing that struck me the most is that the biggest prevention for suicide and just for, mental health struggles in general is that human connection.
Yes.
And feeling like somebody cares. I have friends too. I had one friend who has depression. She said, I haven't been hugged in 3 months, similar to what you just said. And I'll joke about it a little bit, but people do line up at the end of our support group for Laura hugs.
Oh, I love it. I bet you're a great hugger.
Science behind hugs, though.
Yes.
So the oxytocin, as long as I think it has to be 25 to 30 seconds. So I do long hugs.
Yep.
People get uncomfortable after 3 seconds.
They sure do.
Oxytocin, it's that true. And some of it's that empath, just being, and they know I've suffered with certain things.
Yeah.
They know I'm not just like, oh, here, honey, let me give you a hug. It's like, I get it, and giving that hug and feeling that connection of somebody who gets it and you're not alone. And I do miss, it's so weird. At least we have lots of hugs in our family right now, in our little family, but I miss like seeing friends and that interaction in person. It's very strange. And I can't imagine, I think surviving right now, if I was alone in an apartment by myself, would be very challenging. I know there's a lot of people facing that. And I wish I had a way to have.
There's a lot of people facing. I have a couple of friends that live in New York City, and they're working from home right now. And a friend of mine said, I'm a single woman and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I live with depression my entire life and suicidal thoughts. And my only out is going to work. I don't really socialize that much. I have my support group, but she can't even do that. She's confined to her house. I mean, I don't think, and I know we talked about this a few times, but whatever. I don't think people generally understand the mental impact of what this virus is really doing and the PTSD that's going to happen afterwards. I mean, it's going to, you and I, before this came on, we talked about those people who are living with depression and anxiety right now for the first time of their life. They're paranoid and they're stressed, and going out like stresses them out, and they are not sleeping. The insomnia rate right now is at an all-time high. I mean, everyone's suffering, but these new people coming into this, they have no idea what you and I have been dealing with for a very long time.
They don't know coping strategies.
No, they got no toolbox.
Like a truck.
And also they never talked about it. So now to all of a sudden say, oh my God, I'm so depressed. I mean, yeah. I have fully put it out there. I'm as depressed as I think I've ever been. It's really hard to be. And the funny thing is I work from home and I barely leave my house, but being told that I can't, was like, wow, now I can't leave, which, I'm curious. Tell me when you first saw signs in yourself for depression, suicidal thoughts. Like, when can you have a vivid memory of that?
Like, depression is probably as young as like 2 years old, like very, very young. And I don't think I realized I was different, but I definitely experienced a lot of sadness. And, I was the 5-year-old who I loved Legos. I loved constructing things. I loved talking abstract things too. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, what do you think about life on other planets? And people are like, kids our age are like, you want to play Barbies? About heaven. What do you think happens after we die? Let's play Barbies, How
about strawberry shortcake? You got those?
Yeah, I was like, my last name rhymes. So I was Laura Weird One growing up. So it was like, yeah, I definitely had the nicknames of being the odd one out and not really, I spoke, and had a lot more connections, I think, with adults than I did with children mm-hmm. as a child for whatever reason. And I don't know what that comes down to. But definitely very hard times and feeling isolated and feeling different, but not even realizing like the level of anxiety I dealt with wasn't what other people deal with.
Right.
Every day, like overthinking a thought before I would speak. So with certain crowds, I was very quiet because I would think through the exact words of the sentence like 400 times before I'd say it, because I was just nervous I'd get made fun of. And then I'd finally say it and still get made fun of. So it was a challenge. It was a very hard thing. There was some childhood traumas that I don't like to get into too much, but there definitely some around that as well. Then in, grade school was very tough. I went to a small parochial Catholic school. So 20 of us. I had some good, there were people I finally started to kind of open up with, but I didn't really go out with friends until high school. Like, I had gone to a dance and I dressed up, like it was like a jeans dance, and I got dressed up in like a dressy outfit and everyone laughed at me because I didn't know.
Right.
I'd never been to a dance yet.
Right.
It was more of a casual dance than a formal dance, but I didn't know. Like, it was tough for me to communicate and like I was like hanging out with people at that age. So definitely depression throughout grade school and just a hard time. High school, I started, as it got to a bigger audience, there were other people that were like geekier or nerdier, I guess, that I could connect with. And finally, again, like halfway into my freshman year is when somebody invited me out to hang out on a Friday night. And I was like,
what do I do?
What do I do? And I just felt like I finally like connected with someone. I mean, we were hanging out at the mall or the movies or something a few times. And I still tell that friend, I said, you're the first one who ever invited me to hang out. We're still talk today. So
I love that.
She's still a friend. And then one of my friends that sat near me in homeroom, we had a lot of classes together. We're still very close friends too, since we were 14. So she's been a supporter through everything I've gone through. And then you lose friends. So a lot of depression in high school, but never diagnosed. My mom's a social worker too. So she might have seen some signs, runs in both sides of the family with depression and bipolar. Senior year was like very stressful for me. I was valedictorian of my high school, but put a lot of pressure on myself to get to that.
Right.
And I realized later in life, I mean, I would do like a lot of procrastinating, and then the pressure of getting it done, I would ace things, studying for tests or getting papers done, doing 10-page papers the night before, which in high school, most people don't do. Like, they're doing it in advance and spreading it out over time. But trying to decide about colleges, because I had bags of mail from colleges with my SAT scores and being valedictorian. It was like every college was sending information, and decisions are tough with mental health challenges. Like, you're just put so much pressure on yourself that I have to make the right college decision. So I had these bags and bags of information. We visited, I think, 12 or 15 schools.
Wow.
Yeah. And we didn't have a ton of money growing up, middle class or lower middle class. So I really wanted to focus on, with what I had, I said, I want to focus on where I get a good package, that I'm not graduating with huge amounts of loans. Cornell was beautiful. I know Gabe had tried to stop there on the tour. I love waterfalls, and they have waterfalls throughout.
Yeah, they sure do. That's actually one of Cornell's problems, is there's so many bridges there.
I know, and it's so sad. And when I heard that later in life, I was like, oh, it's such a sad thing connected, such a beautiful thing. But I would have graduated with $120,000 in loans. I was like, eh.
Yeah.
So ended up at Lehigh, which was a good choice, and it's a beautiful campus. I mean, it's on a mountain, and it's just so gorgeous campus. But my sophomore year is when I really ran into major challenges that got diagnosed. Freshman year, I was, drinking and partying and not sleeping enough, and then I'd crash and not go to classes, but somehow still get through and get the homework turned in. And sophomore year, I had a knee injury playing rugby, had to have surgery, and after that surgery, I had a lot of trouble sleeping for quite a few weeks, like barely any sleep, and started emailing the whole campus of, let's save the world. All you have to do is play like a child and have the awe of a child to be able to save the world, and everyone will be happy now, and So the grandiose ideas of mania. And someone I was in classes with was a psychology minor, I think, and recognized some things and had emailed the counseling center and got picked up to head to my first.
Wow. Wait, hold on. I got to stop you there. So one of your friends, this is like so important. One of your friends, were they a friend or just
he knew about me. So like I was friends with everyone at that time. I was out every single night, all night.
And he noticed signs and he emailed the counseling center.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah.
That is really powerful, because I have to say something there. I think kids are really scared to do stuff like that. They're really scared to tell an adult because they're afraid that they're going to break some confidentiality with their friend, or they're afraid that something's going to happen to that person, when in actuality, they could actually be saving that person's life. They really could be. And what's even more important is, I'm sure maybe he reached out to you, or they reached out to you, or whatever. They got help. They got an adult to help them, which is also super powerful, because I've had so many young kids message me and they'll say, what do I do? I think my friend's suicidal. They're talking to me and they're saying things that I'm like, message their parent, call their parent. Because even if that person gets mad at you, it doesn't really matter, because if they're serious about it, they need help. And if they're thinking about it, they need help. Either way, they need real help. Now, I know
you and I have heard those stories of, I didn't say something and they do complete a suicide. And it's
I have so many friends in that world. Yes. I mean,
heartbreaking.
Part of my story is that when I was 15, a friend of mine, we were getting high and he had said that he was melting, and I thought he was just stoner talk. And he later went home and shot himself. And I was the last person to be with him. And that, to live with that is really, really freaking hard, really hard. Especially when you deal with, depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts yourself. Like that was the last straw for me. So, but I didn't know the signs, we didn't, I'm an old lady, so we didn't really, talk about it then, but I think having what you just said is so powerful to me. If you see signs from a friend and it's out of your wheelhouse, it's not something you're capable of, talk to someone who you trust. It doesn't have to be their parent. It could be a teacher that you trust, a psychiatrist that you trust, a church, I don't know, member of church, whoever you trust.
Yep. And it sounds like a couple other students too who got these emails that were getting forwarded around kind of forwarded it along too. So there was a couple messages coming in like, hey, it sounds like something's off here. So
incredible.
They were able to get me help. But it was a very traumatic experience.
I totally understand it. And I had Rose on a couple weeks ago, and she was saying how even though it was traumatic for her, it shaped who she is, and she couldn't, those mistakes and things that she went through in her life, she would never change them for the world because of that reason. I think that's part of it. I mean, they've shaped who you are, and I know you spoke to Gabe, and we don't want to give Gabe too much freaking credit here, and you wrote a beautiful piece and you were able to find your voice. And through that, you do help other people. I see the comments coming in underneath your stuff, it's, and what you have to say is very insightful, which is also important.
Yeah. And when you talk about that trauma kind of shaping us and being someone who we are today, would I change my story? No. I'm glad I am where I am today. I wouldn't change anything right now in my story. And I think overcoming regrets and overcoming even anger about way things were treated, being able to forgive, to be happy where you are today. But you have to get to a place where you've healed somewhat. And healing is a journey. Things still come up. I
Absolutely.
try to say, as you talk about that, what are we better because of it? So Rebecca, who I think.
Yes, she's supposed to do it.
Better Because project. So I'm working on a story for her,
Awesome.
for her project. I don't know if you know Kintsukuroi. It's the art of repairing things with gold that are broken, like pottery, to make them more beautiful.
Oh, yes.
So it'll be, all the cracks are now filled in with gold to still be, you can still see the cracks. You still know there was damage there or brokenness, but it's making it into a more beautiful piece of artwork than it was before because of the way it's repaired and healed. So I'm writing my story around Kintsukuroi.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. I cannot wait to read it. Well, before we end this, I always like to ask, I know you did a little What Would You Miss for me. Yeah. What are some things about you, Laura, that make you so uniquely you and that you would miss if you weren't here?
Maybe it's not even uniquely me, but it's my family. I love laughing with the kids. You mentioned burping with the kids. I love being silly with the kids. I don't know if I'll ever truly grow up,
Yeah.
I love being young at heart and laughing with the kids and running around, and we find all different cool things in the woods. So I would miss walking in the woods. I would miss time with my significant other and getting to snuggle our puppy, who loves to curl up with us and gets so excited about walks, and my family and friends and the connections we've made over the years. All that's so important. And I just, like I said, I love nature too, like woods or the beach, mountains,
grounding yourself. You want to ground yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
It's funny because, so when I ask that question, two things usually happen. First, the person might become teary-eyed because, especially if they're thinking about somebody that they lost or someone that is struggling, or they have a huge smile on their face. It's both of those. The smile that you just emitted on your face was so breathtakingly beautiful. You could tell that you do love your family, you do love nature, you love making people laugh. And I really love getting to know you. I think you're a fantastic human being with amazing, beautiful curly hair.
Thank you. We got to get your curls out.
I got to get my curls out. And I'm so happy that you took time to sit across from me in the chair and tell your story, because I think a lot of it will resonate with people. And when we post it, we will put your links underneath it so people can read the articles you wrote, because they're pretty incredible.
And as my article went live, I decided, okay, this is the time to pull the Band-Aid off. It took a little while. They schedule it and things like that. So I took the time and opened my blog while it was
awesome. And tell us the name of your blog.
So Taming the Bipolar Beast is my blog. And then Instagram is the same name. And that was my time. I have some things that I've written and some things, analogies that I have. So I'll have to show you that one. There's like a glass half full analogy that takes it out of the normal cliche and kind of brings it into perspective of mental health. But stuff like that I wanted to get out there and get the message out there to more people. And there were different times during manias that I had posted here and there little tidbits of things and then kind of re-hid them, because it's tough to have that stuff public. And that was my time to really say, hey, I'm an advocate and I want to be public about it. If we don't bust the stigma, then we're just propagating it or continuing it. And I know it depends on people's, each person's career path and where they are in life. If they're able to be public about it, we don't want to affect people's lives, but the more people who can be, or in a position to be public with their mental health challenges, the more we can break that stigma.
And also, what you just said is, I have a point I'd like to make about that. We are those people's voices. So there are people that can't speak about it for many different reasons. They're in a toxic life. They, their job, like you just said. And that's why it's so important for those that can use their voice to use it.
Yeah. And that made me a little emotional, because I did have some people message me like, hey, I'm a teacher, or I'm this, and I can't share my story.
Yeah.
But like being able to connect to you personally, knowing now, because once you put it out there, people can message you directly and they don't have to comment publicly, I have bipolar, I have depression. They can message you directly because now they know. So I've had multiple people that are just kind of Facebook friends or cursory friends that they know. So if they have a brother or they're dealing with depression or whatever, they know they can message me because they know I'm an advocate. They know that I have
done. And one thing that What You Would Miss has tried to do is create that safe space for people. And we've had so many people message us because they want to, they're ready to talk about their struggles, which is super important. And also, reminds me that if you are struggling and you are in crisis, to please text 741-741. And if I always tell people, if you don't connect with the first person, hang up and call again. They are there. But honestly, what this does is very cathartic, because it helps us because we're sharing our story, but it also, that person that's reading it that we don't even know is reading it or watching this is like, oh my God, I was in college and I was exhibiting those signs. I thought it was only me that was exhibiting those signs. Laura's going through it. I'm not alone. Like, that is so big to know that you're not alone, and you're not alone. So thank you so much,
Thank
Laura.
you for what you're doing. It's such an awesome, as soon as I heard it, I read your story when Gabe had posted it, and I loved all the backstory of stupid dumb breast cancer. And then I saw the What Would You Miss? And I was like, that is awesome. So I'm so glad we've had a chance to connect and share our stories and our purpose, that purpose of connecting people and making sure people don't feel so alone, especially in this time of isolation. There are still other methods, and then more hugs once we're allowed to.
Once we're allowed to, we'll be hugging everyone.
Yes.